Does the black moon howl?
Only for those with an unwavering desire to hear the truth.
Access granted.
You have been selected for an opportunity, an orientation as a trusted associate, if you will, into the secured, contained, and protected files of the Foundation. SCP Unredacted distributes new files for review Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on secure channels on YouTube, Spotify, and scp-unredacted.captivate.fm.
Hey there, SCP fans. My name is Grigori Carpin, and this is Simply Creative People, the show about SCP creatives, be they authors, artists, or offsite content creators like YouTube and TikTok. We're focused on bridging the gap between various fans and serving as an introduction to different concepts and stories on the wiki. So, many welcomes to all, and let's get started. Hello, welcome back to Simply Creative People after another 6 weeks. Oh well. So we're going to be doing Nobody today. And I mean that...
Episode over.
That's right.
We're doing who?
We're Nobody. Doctor Who... No, I'm just kidding. So, as always, I'm Grigori Carpin, and joined, as per usual...
Though I'm uncertain, to be frank, I think that I am Harry Blank. If I've been Harry Blank all day, I guess I'll stay this way.
There was this wonderful...
I could tell he was practicing that. He knew that in advance. Was that a read off a script or something?
No, obviously, I just brought that completely to mind, apropos of nothing. Just
naturally.
No preparation at all.
As everyone knows, I script this entire thing. There's nothing on.
Yeah, it's of course. Right.
Yeah, you don't think
There's a little teleprompter going in the background.
That's right.
You don't think he would allow me to interrupt him all of the time unless it was scripted?
Allow. And joined again by our lovely guest, ROUNDERHOUSE. Say hello.
That's me. Hi. I'm ROUNDERHOUSE. So they say. That's what they tell me.
So
is his curse and his gift.
That's right. We haven't been back for a little while, just because I've been kind of distracted by some other stuff and real life problems. But here we go.
We've decided not to have real lives anymore, and that's solved the problem.
That I do miss. I sort of, now that I have a job, I do sort of miss the whole free time thing. But anyway.
Yeah. So
we're going to talk about Nobody. And if you don't know what Nobody is, which, fair enough, it's an interesting situation because it's labeled as a group of interest on the SCP Wiki. But, typically it's presented as an individual, but it's always, not always, but there's so many different versions of who this individual is. So much like the Black Queen, it's not really just one person. There's no organization in a traditional sense. And pretty much every article we're going to talk about today are tales, which is interesting because most of the, most of the GOIs are, focused on SCPs with some GOI documents and some tales. But this is vast majority tales, which I think is pretty interesting. So
we've lost all the audience because we're talking about tales. So.
Oh, I know. Too bad. Actually,
there they go.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody who is mostly interested in reading the tales that we recommend. So if that's
we go to a different school.
We found them, the one guy.
That's right.
Go to it.
Not a guy, but anyway.
From Canada, you wouldn't know her.
I was gonna say girlfriend from Canada. I could check up on that though, so that wouldn't be a good excuse.
That's right. It would have to be in Mexico
because I have access to all of Canada. It being very small,
the entire census data.
I mean, it's just hop,
I
skip,
do have
and a
that.
jump.
Yeah.
If we just count the places where there's a population over 10,000, I think Canada's pretty small.
Yeah, I can drive to pretty much all of those places.
You can drive to pretty much any place. It would just, take a while.
Yes,
that's true. That's very true. So what is Nobody? We're gonna skip the creative corner because I didn't have any creative ideas about it.
We're just not creative at all.
Yeah,
we haven't checked to see how often we post.
Not this week, fellas.
Fucking creatively bankrupt right now. So
we're gonna. You should have said we're cutting creative corner. That would have been clever.
I'm not that clever.
I'm only that clever in retrospect.
That's right. So
we're cutting creative corner.
Yes.
It's just alliterative. I don't even know if it's clever.
We're very bad at this. I can already tell.
We've cut all the corners. Rounderhouse's Discord icon inexplicably is a triangle, and
It's always been a triangle. I don't know what you people are talking about.
Some
gaslighting me.
This is some like retrocausal anomalies.
A triangle.
A triangle.
Rounderangle.
So yeah, we're going to talk about Nobody, which is a basic sort of. It's what's interesting about it is it's wide open for interpretation, and so also makes it fairly hard to explain. They're often individuals who exhibit difficulty with like memory. They need to be writing notes to themselves, and they are either it's an ability or it's a curse. Kind of depends on the writer. They slip out of perception. People don't notice them, or sometimes they only notice them like retroactively. Rounderhouse is just regularly changing the chat names so that the
No, one of them is Harry. Harry did that. We're playing
fucking
ping pong.
notifications keep fucking popping up in the middle of a recording. So shut
I
the
was
fuck
waiting
up.
how long we could run out his patience.
It's all staying.
It doesn't
in.
take long.
No.
Oh, wait. Well, on that topic, I almost forgot. All right. Now we can.
Oh, nice.
That just read it out the fucking recording. Very loud. Nicely done. So this is a person who can like barely be noticed. They kind of slip in and out of perception.
Relatable.
Yeah. They can
We've all been there.
walk into a classified bunker of the Foundation or the GOC and most of the time not even be caught. And so they're not really something, and I think this has a lot of the reason why SCPs are rarely the focus, because the Foundation pretty much doesn't know what to do with them. They have notes about them, but it's like, oh, sometimes it's a vaguely European-looking older man, but sometimes it's not. There's no one Nobody, but at least according to the hub, although I broke that rule on a tale, there's no two individuals named Nobody that are seen together. Although how they would know that if they can't perceive them in the first place, I don't know.
Yeah, it's frankly kind of cute that the hub still has rules because no two authors have written Nobody using all of the rules.
I mean, it's
I don't
basically
think
just...
two authors have written Nobody.
I mean, the premise is so open for interpretation because you're just given these very basic facts that this is an individual who has in some way, either intentionally or accidentally, become unnoticeable. And how can they get up to trouble in the SCP universe, basically? And it can be used in all sorts of different ways. I mean, it's kind of... It really doesn't have boundaries. There's no like, oh, you did that. That's not a Nobody article. Nah, whatever. Do whatever the fuck you want. There's a canon which is primarily concerned with Nobody, which is the man who wasn't there, and that one has sort of an idea about replacements. There's like different incarnations, and they often recruit not replacements but successors, and there's like a purpose to them, like giving them some very vague, but it could be different for each one. Both the stories that we'll be talking about that Rounder was involved in, which was the man in the white suit, was involved with that, and so was mine, which was later on connected to SCP-6500.
The man in the white suit, the first time we all battled and we were roundly defeated by Rounderhouse and his cronies.
That's right.
Yeah. You learned your goddamn lesson, didn't you?
No, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Sometimes they help the Foundation, sometimes they don't. Like, there's no core purpose to Nobody. This is almost always an individual, sometimes like an agent of chaos, but oftentimes just they have purposes that the Foundation is not clear on. And so you could just sort of do almost anything. I mean, they're effectively unnoticeable, so what the fuck is the Foundation going to do? What is any of the Veil type organizations like the GOC or whoever going to do about them?
Yeah, they're sort of like an established Deus Ex Machina, really.
Yeah. And I mean,
Pretty
you could
much.
just use it like that, which is often the time how it's used in SCPs, which I think there are only like 10, which that are tagged with it, which is
Is
fascinating.
that really true?
Yeah,
That's
I was
amazing.
looking. I think there's only like 10. I didn't count them directly, but there's not
I'm
a
gonna
lot.
ask Crumb.
Hold on, this I need to fact check.
Yes, do it right in the middle.
We're doing it live.
According
We don't have a
no,
Jamie, so it's just me.
He's not far off. I just checked Crom, and with the Nobody and SCP tags combined, it's 13.
Okay, 13.
Yeah,
That is
I just checked.
ridiculous.
Wow, that's
It's
wow,
crazy.
That's embarrassing.
Aren't there like 3 SCPs in the man in the white suit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking at 4 of these, and they're just ours.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
Why am I on this list like 4 times? I don't even. Okay, whatever.
I mean, and that's what's interesting about it is that, like, you know, as opposed to all these other GUIs, which are, for the most part, like wonderful, like inspiration for like an SCP. Like, what did this GUI get up to that the Foundation dealt with? Inherent in the premise of Nobody is, well, the Foundation really can't do much about them.
Yeah.
Which is fun, and I don't know what the origin of it was, honestly. I don't know. Rounder, do you know who originally created it?
It is a complicated story, but yeah, I'm happy to get into it.
Oh, yeah.
if we
Awesome.
want to.
Yeah.
Yes. History.
Right. I wasn't there, obviously, at the time, but my understanding is that Fishmonger's stuff, very old school wiki shit, like 2008, 2009. And he had a character, I don't remember the exact name of the character, I think it was Foo, but like F-O and then a 0. But Foo, and then it stood for something, and it was like this character who was like a noir dude, like trench coat, fedora, weaving in and out of stories, like not really clear who he worked for, what his purpose was, all of that shit. So like kind of a proto version of Nobody.
Yeah.
And eventually, when Fishmonger like deleted all his shit and buzzed off, the character got left behind because I don't know, but the character eventually evolved into what we now know as Nobody.
That's cool. I like that there's kind of a nebulous origin to it as well. Like that's very,
Yeah.
very
Very
fitting.
appropriate.
Yeah.
It's so perfect that the person who essentially created Nobody then just fucked off and abandoned the character
Yeah.
alone. That's funny.
It is funny. It's awesome. Yeah, so it's really fitting because of the way that it's used. Like, so many different authors have used Nobody in completely different ways. The only thing that kind of ties them together is this idea that they're hard. Like, if they were right in front of you, you would have a hard time really perceiving them. They could get your attention.
Anti-mimetic.
Yeah, they could get your attention, so it's not like you can't. But then you'll have a hard time remembering they're still there, even if they're still right
They
in front
tend
of you.
to slip out of mind, basically.
Right.
Hard to focus on
like-
details.
Something that's come up a lot in SCP, but also lots of fiction, is like a thing like a perception filter,
Yeah.
which is, you know, this idea that you can kind of like just slide right over your noticeability of somebody. So that's what we've got here and how people use it in a variety of ways. And we've got like 9 or 10 articles to talk about kind of all the different ways it's used. And I personally have always really, really loved Nobody because it is so, it's just so open to interpretation. And I didn't read everything on the hub, but almost everything I clicked open on was interesting. Like, you can't just do a lazy Nobody story because there's nothing to work with. You have to create everything from whole cloth. And so I think it really is something that people wait to get into. Like, I doubt that's going to be anyone's first article.
Yeah.
I mean, I waited.
I love
significantly.
Nobody. It was a very Grigori thing to say.
Yeah, I do. I love no one, no individual. I'm a
It'd be a very
cold,
Roundhouse thing.
cold, dead heart.
No, I love one person, and I share shoes with them. It's me.
I know my girlfriend listens.
But
To this.
yeah,
I do love my
looking up
girlfriend
at
very
the-
much.
Okay. Yeah, he had to add that disclaimer.
I did.
But yeah, looking at the list of Nobody articles, I am reminded, what's it called? How long are we in? Like 10 minutes? 10 minutes into the show, that like my third highest article is all about Nobody, and that just completely slipped my mind. So we can deal with that later. But we'll focus on the other articles for now.
I can make a perennial complaint, and it's that I'm pretty much 100% sure that the top-rated Nobody article is Quiet Days, which has 1 million tags and addresses all of those tag things in one or less than one sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, mine is Made in Heaven though. Actually, no, the highest Nobody is Avalon. Quiet Days isn't even tagged with Nobody. Actually, I'm going to give the same criticism to Avalon. That doesn't count. I'm not accepting it.
I don't even remember Nobody showing up in Avalon.
I think it was like one of the alternate reality GOIs that was like made in oblique.
You
Oh,
have to really
right,
think
of
about it
course.
with,
Yeah. Where they
It's
have
not
the,
in Quiet Days? I'm losing my mind here.
Well, I don't know if it's in Quiet Days, but Quiet Days isn't tagged with it.
I think it is.
Huh.
I'm not seeing it on the list.
Oh, okay, maybe not.
It's the second one on the list, dude. I'm looking in tag search
Yeah,
right now. Quiet Days,
I was gonna say.
1265.
Oh wait, I had the SCP thing up. Okay, never mind. You guys stay corrected. My bad.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, Quiet Days is a
Gaslight me.
fairly short story about the Foundation realizing that all the anomalies are going away, and
I'm
how
still
they-
right though. Avalon is slightly like 10 upvotes higher than.
It
Quiet
is.
Days.
Avalon's
That's
higher than
random.
Quiet Days. That's amazing.
Good. I mean, not that Quiet Days is bad. Quiet Days is great, but Avalon is terrific. So
There's a lot more work in Avalon than there is in
yeah,
Quiet Days.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is 6001, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so what are your guys' general thoughts about Nobody and how you-
Every sentence.
like Nobody.
is fucking
I know.
Yeah, it's,
I know.
it's just like constant,
hilarious.
What are your
lowest
thoughts about
possible
Nobody?
capital
denominator
N
jokes.
Nobody.
Yeah. It's not going to
The
stop being funny. I'm
lowest
still gonna be
possible
laughing
hanging
an hour
fruit.
later.
I know.
It's my favorite kind of fruit.
Nice. But yeah,
Seriously, grapes are like as low hanging as you get. All the good fruit is low hanging. What's the complaint? Carry on.
I don't think
What?
that's
Grapes aren't
true, but
even the
whatever.
best
Grapes
fruit?
grow up a wall.
They still hang. It's a
They're still
vine.
lower
It's
than like a
vertical.
tree.
That's how gravity works. Yeah.
You're not going to argue with me about botany. I know botany.
All right.
Okay, I didn't realize I was talking to. That's
I'm an
a
expert
weird
at
flex.
botany.
Yeah, botany historian.
Yeah, that's me. What are we talking about? Nobody.
General
What do you think
thoughts about Nobody. Mhm.
Yeah.
See, it's so
Okay.
funny.
It's so bad at this.
This is wonderful. We're doing really well.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Nobody just because, like, I feel like Nobody lends its. Okay, shut up.
I know. Get over it. We'll never get through this.
Okay, I'm trying.
Oh my
I'm
God.
trying.
I feel like he lends itself really well to, like, a very particular genre of stories in ways other GOIs don't really. Like, you can write pretty much any kind of story with, like, most other groups of interests. Like, Anderson, like, I can't list them all, but, like, I would say most GOIs, you can write pretty much any kind of genre story with them. Like, the only two I can think of that restrict themselves to a very particular kind of genre are, like, The Spirit and Nobody, and it's basically the same genre for both.
Right, it is.
Like,
Yeah.
very,
Noir.
very hard-boiled noir stuff.
I don't know if you have to do a noir thing with Nobody, but it does fit itself very well.
Yeah, I'm not
blends-
saying you have to. I'm
blends
just
noir
saying
with
it
it, really.
lends itself very well
Absolutely.
to noir stories.
I think it really does a great. It's a good fit for like grand spy fiction. I don't mean like James Bond, but like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You know?
Yeah.
That too, yeah.
That's the vibe I always got from Man in the White Suit. I mean, as much as there is a lot of noir influences, it felt like a very like global spanning, spy fiction thing.
Yeah, we explicitly wrote it as like a revenge, like a espionage revenge story across like centuries, which was the angle we went for.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
worked really well. You go all the way from the wars all the way up into the
The
far future.
wars.
Other wars.
The two that count. What?
Yeah.
There's like
Someone
other
with that one,
wars.
I'm just not sure who.
There are, there were other wars. Fuck them. They don't count.
They were much smaller. Just like
Fuck them, no wars.
it's like Pluto. You didn't hear about this? We've actually excluded all wars except for the world wars from being wars.
Yeah.
Those are just like dwarf wars.
All right. Just why don't you follow up on
Yeah.
that?
Dwarf wars. Yeah,
Pluto's
but no,
a
I was
dwarf
saying,
planet. It's done.
Yes, I know.
Why do I have
we
to
got what
explain
you were
my
going.
jokes?
We got what you meant.
You're making me sound like an old person.
I mean,
I don't
I'm
think
not
I'm
making
you sound like anyone.
Yeah, neither of us are doing that to you.
Well, you are with your extremely high voice. I'll admit that.
Which
That
one of
was
us?
rude. That was rude and uncalled for.
Actually, both of you. You just squeaked when you said that.
It's my inner squirrel.
I meant the other guy. You squeak all the
No, I
time.
told on myself there a little bit, didn't I?
We all have very deep masculine voices. Anyway.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I the particular thing about nobody being able to like slip out of perception is a thing I've always fucking loved. Like there are a couple of other characters that can do that I've always really loved in fiction. It always seemed like such a banal but like grounded but super fascinating like superpower, I guess.
Yeah.
Being able to like fade into the background or like move without being seen, not like straight up going invisible or anything, but just like escaping notice.
I mean, that's why I always loved the Shadow. It wasn't the guns, it wasn't
old
the
enough to
fedora
remember
and
the
shit.
Shadow.
Well, I wasn't alive then.
Because
but
he's trying to make me feel younger. This is good.
That's true. But just the idea that like he just clouded people's minds so that they couldn't see him coming, which is like, oh, that makes so much more sense than Batman's just like really good at finding the shadows.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, there's one, this is a bit of an aside, but like there's this one character in this book series I read a really, really long time ago where it was like, they're like mutants, but not like X-Men mutants, like on a scale of mutants where 10 is like Wolverine, they're like a 3, where you're very good at like finding, or you're very good at recognizing where people are seeing and where people's notice lies, which lets you effectively move invisibly because you can just skirt people's like fields of vision and focus and allowing you to move essentially invisibly, which is like the perfect kind of angle I see Nobody doing. Like not a really like high level super anomalous thing, but like I can totally see this happening, and it fits the character too. Like just a weird fucking dude who can't be like really noticed by people.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
it's fun because it's not literal invisibility. It's not. Yeah. It is a magic power, sort of, but it is
Functional invisibility.
and it's very, very grounded because it's the idea of like, well, you just don't notice them, and all the trouble you could get that character up into. And what's fascinating about it too, because of the nature of it, yeah, everyone's kind of got their own voice to it. As much as they are these non-persons, that's not really true because anyone that's written one of these stories that's focused on Nobody does have, a pretty strong voice to the character. It's just they don't have like names usually and deep histories. But yeah, well,
all these things we're talking about are somewhat subverted by the series that we're going to talk about first, because again, the not having names thing is kind of a central issue in Rounders series.
I really like that because, to be honest, a lot of the things I'd read by with Nobody in it before kind of just took it for granted, used it interestingly. A lot of the stories that came before were very cool, but they weren't as interested in talking about like, well, why did this happen? And that could have gone bad. That could have gone bad, let's face it. But because you couched this story that's really about identity and discovering who you really are in this kind of global, like you said, century-spanning revenge tale. Well, the team did.
I wasn't aware I did that.
You did that, yeah.
Well, Tufto did the heavy lifting. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll cede that one completely fairly. He pulled that shit.
Any team that Tufto's on, where work, like any effort was put in, it's pretty hard to argue that Tufto isn't the one doing the heavy lifting. Just incredible with the fucking pros. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The whole series is phenomenal. Every entry is great.
Yeah, it's really good.
Except mine.
No,
I'm very happy with my entries for the canon, because
I think it could be.
Tufto and I, this was in my deleting shit completely arbitrarily era. So before we started,
when does that
Tufto
one end?
I just passed on the curse to Jack.
But did you ever? He's not equipped to handle that.
Yeah,
or anything.
But Tufto and I, that was cruel. Tufto and I made an agreement when we started. We were like, we're not going to delete any of the shit we post because that would be immensely like unfair to everyone else involved in it. But we agreed not to delete any of our entries, and I think it worked out well because we were incentivized to make the best shit we possibly could.
So you got first, and Harry, your team got second or third? Third.
We
okay.
got second. We got second. Rob.
Wait, who got second? Oh, Storm got second.
Oh yeah, the
War on All Fronts.
Oh
team.
yeah, God, that one's good.
Mikasa
but that one,
Jr.
And then we got fourth, and I think it's fascinating that all four of the, I think we got fourth. Actually, I can't remember, but
you're fourth or fifth or somewhere up there.
All the top 5 teams for this Canon Renaissance contest, which happened in the fall of 2020. Which the whole point of it was to go back to canons that really hadn't had a lot of expansion put in them. All of these projects were these like long form tale series, even if they involved SCPs, like that continuity actually mattered, even if you could read individual pieces by themselves, which is funny because for the most part that stuff is or has been frowned upon in maybe before that. I think we were opening up to that possibility at that point.
Yeah, they all are. You're right, because
The contests lend themselves to that kind of thing, a very planned out tale series with like multiple interconnecting parts that people can follow along and read as it comes out. Like it's just it lends itself very well to
Oh,
that
absolutely.
sort of thing.
It worked really well in Canon Renaissance because the man in the white suit, which got first place, was excellent, and the War
It
on
worked
Earth
out well because all of the component tale series were also good.
Yeah.
Well,
The was it Anastasis?
Yeah.
That was amazing. And
Anesthesia?
you're right, you got
I don't remember what it was called.
Anesthesia. Yeah. We got third, and ours was a tale series. You got fourth, according to the hub, and it was also a tale series. And the fifth one was the AIAD one, which was
also a tale series. Yeah.
I think,
That's awesome. Especially because, I remember when I first started out, and I'm sure, Harry, you got this much too, that like, continuing narratives are like no good on the SCP record.
We still hear it from people.
I know. And it's like, well, I think I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay, I can complain about them for you.
Yeah, you can.
You shouldn't have your own sites. That's egotistic.
How many of you got now?
I'm just collecting them like little Pokemon gym badges.
Literally collecting the physical badges, even.
That's right.
Actually, now that you mention it.
Buy Rounderhouse stickers.
I just ordered the 666 ones. They're gonna arrive next week.
Nice. I gotta get the Site 106 ones at the very least.
Yes, I'm ordering those next.
That's awesome.
God, I have so many sites. I can't keep track of them all. Anyway.
Okay, I think I only have 3.
Only have 3. Most people have.
Only have 3. Yeah.
Well, one of them is it's just like necessary because we had to think of something else for our in his name. I can't remember the series that we've stopped writing, but
whatever
we'll
the
eventually
fucking
get back.
name of that fucking series is.
Yeah.
Which series?
The continuation of both our resurrection things, where we
Oh right. Yes.
yeah, in his name. I think it's.
Yeah,
in
look
his
at you
name.
guys. You actually continued your resurrection series.
It took us like a year and a half, but
behind
yeah.
like a roadkill.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the Canon Renaissance contest. How many of these continue to survive after?
I know.
Honestly, like your res series and like War on All Fronts, and I can't think of any others.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny because I remember you and me talking, Harry, like when we were doing the like reading phase, like we took like a weekend and just read everything in Renaissance or skimmed some of it, and it was just like, oh, was this a mistake?
Oh, you guys! Look at you guys. You guys actually read your tale series before you started writing for it.
Well,
I didn't read.
But you didn't really need to
I
for
didn't-
Nobody.
I didn't, but I didn't know that because I didn't read it, so I didn't know whether I was
that's
supposed to read
funny.
it or not. So I didn't read it until 7 months after I won the contest.
Well,
in fairness, I was the only one on my team who read any Resurrection before writing it, and probably since writing it.
I did it because I thought we were going to be continuing what was talked about in the main thing, and then by the time I was done reading it,
And you realized this sucks.
Well,
it's bad.
I don't want to say it
We
sucks
realized we
because
aren't even allowed to continue.
there's certainly a lot of stuff in it that I think is good, is certainly as like an inspiration. Otherwise, we wouldn't have kept writing it.
Yeah.
But
I'm a
it
noted
was
old res hater.
Yeah, that's
For sure.
fair. And I mean, I think I used to be too, until I realized how like open it was to do something else, to do something new. And then that's when I found the fun in it. But anyway. Yeah, okay, well, let's talk about
I did the same thing. I very visibly decided to just have fun with whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
like,
talk about,
I came back from like reading it all, and I talked to my teammates, and I was like, we need to do something new. I don't even know how we propose continuing on.
We need to do not this.
Like, well, I mean, even if it was
that
brilliant, that's not the point. The point is, it's like, was this clearly somebody else's story? Like, it's not a canon in the traditional sense. So let's do a side story, and it's totally open for that. So why not?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Man in the White Suit, which was the winning contest entries team for the Canon Renaissance contest, like we were just talking about.
Damn straight, baby.
And Rounder, you were the captain, I think, and then Captain Kirby was not the captain, but also another team member, and Tufto. And
Yeah. We had
you know
real
what?
fun
I
with
just
that one.
realized I've never said
Two captains disqualified.
Wodenaz?
Wodenaz, yeah.
Okay, great.
what
So
was on
Rounder, Captain Kirby, Tufto, Wodenaz. Of course we didn't fucking win. Look at this team. You cheaters.
Yeah. No, I seem to recall people were already starting to shout angrily when the teams were announced.
Oh God. Let's
Yeah,
not go.
no,
Let's not go.
I almost
Let's not name names.
I almost got disqualified for that.
Oh God. Let's not name names, but I do remember people making a big fucking deal about.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a gentleman. I don't kiss and tell.
Yeah, I remember witnessing some of
Kiss
that.
being here almost
was like,
disqualified
oof.
from a team, but yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
Anyway,
The teams formed really quickly for that contest. Like within minutes, everybody was talking to each other.
yeah.
I remember it was at like 9 p.m. too. Like usually it's in the middle of the day, but it was at 9 p.m. so nobody like noticed that it had happened for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then it was just a flood. But yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think everybody loved this series that read it, but it's
Yep.
it's very much a noir / revenge tale. But like I said earlier, I did get a very like big spy fiction, kind of very smart spy fiction, especially with Tufto writing that opening chapter. Like I mean, the thing I think about it the most is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy with this, which if you haven't read, you should read it. It's fucking great. Anyway, I don't know how to pronounce this tale's name, so Rounder, you do it.
Chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro?
Chiaroscuro.
What does that mean?
Chiaroscuro.
What does that mean?
It's an artistic technique where you like use light to form I don't actually know. I'm not an artist, but I know it's in like some kind of artistic technique using like the light as an effect to form like very sharp contrasts.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a lot. Like
that's
Chiaroscuro art has very, very deep shadowing usually.
Oh, that's
Oh, it's Italian for light dark. Doesn't that make fucking sense?
Right,
that's-
so the bright
that's
parts
so
stand out
fitting.
more because of how dark they're.
that's so.
Yes,
funny.
it is.
I mean, shocking
title.
by Tufto. So this one kind of opens up. I mean, this is obviously a tale series. There are SCPs in there as well, so it is something. We're not going to go like super in deep, or I would like to avoid doing it super in deep about the details of. You know, we can go deep in this one and the epilogue, but kind of the meat of the story. We want to try and leave it open for people to go and read.
No, I mean it's fine because I don't think you'd really like understand the meat of the story unless you've read the preceding tales anyway. So
Yeah.
it's not really a big deal.
Sure. So this kind of sets it up, which is an aging, well, I don't know how old this, nobody looking for a replacement, and then sets up the dichotomy or the tension between the fact that there is nobody and there is this other, you know, mysterious figure, which is the man in the white suit who is chasing after
Other
nobody.
worse nobody.
That's right.
Yes.
And the series starts. It's like World War I or like just during or just before, right? I think. And it goes.
I think it's.
Okay.
I don't actually know. I didn't have an ending to that sentence. Just, I guess I thought I had a thought, and then I didn't have the thought.
But like we said
originally
earlier,
we were gonna have originally we were gonna have it start quite a bit earlier, but my team put a kibosh on my idea for Samurai Nobody, which I'm still mad about. I think Samurai Nobody would have kicked ass.
you're just making
But-
a ninja story. Then it's just like ninja.
I mean, yeah, because like it's perfect. I mean, can you
yeah.
tell me that like Ronin, like a samurai dude in like shinobi in pure white armor and like nobody as a ninja? That's fucking awesome, right?
It is awesome.
I mean, there were samurai and there were ninja. Pushes up glasses. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's in the
Is
second
that
World
where
War.
we're starting to decide the line, and not like the last like tale in the series that ends up in like flying cars and like New Portland and shit?
Isn't there like it's like on a space station or like on the moon?
Yeah.
That's the epilogue is on a space
Yeah,
station,
yeah.
but the one my
that's true.
section of the series
Yeah.
was in like future Portland.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
imagines
like
that the series ended where he stopped writing because that's where he loses interest.
That's not fair. Like I constantly gush about Dakota when
You do. You brought up the ending a lot and justifiably so.
it's
very
terrific. Yeah. So
good. Anyway, yes, this is in the Second World War.
and then like we said, it just stretches off into like near or even far future. And what's fun about it was that I did the same thing, which was that I felt like our story needed an ending so badly that even though it wasn't going to be considered for the contest, like putting in, you know, a final like capstone on the project.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. You did too, Harry, right?
I think we probably made it right under the wire
Oh,
for
okay.
the ending of the contest because
Yeah,
I'm
none of us know when to
I would
fucking
not have
quit.
accepted. Yeah. No kidding. All of these series are quite long too. It's very funny.
Yeah, they're like obscenely long. Like I think the white suit was actually longer than the original Man That Wasn't There Tale series.
It goes to so many different places. I think I remember people were complaining about that too, because all of these big entries had really long series. And people are going, you're just crowding out all the lower entries by making people read your stuff. It's like, that's not how that worked.
What about it?
Yeah, because I remember somebody saying that to our team as well, and it was just like, oh, first of all, we're not even winning. Second of all, like every one of our articles until the last
this is
two
clearly not working out for us.
Right. The same thing got said about 6500, and it's just like, guys, what are you guys, dumb? Like, I'm really glad it did well, but come on.
This isn't cheating. This was a handicap.
Yeah. But like every issue, every like chapter of our story, at least until the ones I wrote at the end, were like 5,000+ words. Right. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you just like couldn't do it. Like it was like, no, there are like 8 characters that are
the story needs to be told.
Yeah.
It's as long as it needs to be.
That's right.
Damn straight. That's what she said.
There are parts of our Canon Renaissance contest you just don't have to read, so you can figure out which parts that is. Anyway,
same with ours.
I like Chiaroscuro a lot. Like I think it goes into that what I was talking about, like that how nobody lends itself to noir incredibly well. Like the entire vibe of the tale, it's like ripping with atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And I mean Tufto's prose absolutely like carries it.
Yeah,
Tufto is particularly good at atmosphere, especially gloomy and uncertain atmosphere is something that Tufto
right,
can
or it's sad and rainy and you don't know what's going on or who to trust.
It's also got a really good voice for time periods.
Yeah.
Like that one we read, the Lyle Burnett SCP that he wrote. I can't remember which episode that was on, but like he just that's right. That is the one. It just has like such a one, like just transports you to whatever setting he's telling.
And it's like such a niche thing too, like French Indochina, and like that's such a ridiculously specific time period, time and place, and he just like clears it.
It's
amazing.
Good. Yeah, and it's always compelling. Like it never feels dry, because as you already said, his prose is just ridiculously good. I mean, Lamplight
I have a
is
famous
same thing.
Yeah, affectation for all the Lyle Burnley stuff, but
That's great. So if you want to, what was the overall like goal of the series?
To win the
beyond the contest, but like narratively, like what were you guys
winning? My only goal was winning. but yeah, like we set out to write something that I guess none of us really like super fucked with the canon to begin with. I think maybe Tufto did, because it's like his sort of thing. But beyond that, none of us were like super enthused, because most of us felt like it was super vague and unclear, and like there was no like clear. I mean, obviously nobody doesn't lend itself to clear explanations, but like even outside of that, we didn't feel like there was an engaging sort of through line for the Nobody stories. It was like, oh, nobody's here now, it's this guy who's over here. And it was just 6 tales worth of that without anything like connecting them or to engage the reader. So we decided to add that in the in the form of a new character, which was the man in the white suit. So we wanted to like in one character create like a conflict for Nobody, an antagonist for Nobody, and a foil for Nobody. And then from there, the series just kind of grew out of that.
The thing I really like. That I think your series does really well is setting up the character of Nobody without ever really giving us that much in the way of like background details about their character. For example, Nobody is often showing up like really fucking dirty and poor looking. Like you could just totally see Nobody being like homeless and stuff, or like sleeping on someone's porch because they can get away with it because
one of them was homeless.
Yeah. And I just like that scrappy sort of can-do, like, well, I can't earn any money and no one pays attention to me, so I guess I'm just, sleeping where I can sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the man in the white suit obviously gave, big James Bond villain vibes.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
Well dressed, ready to kill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I
then
mean, it differed. Like we all wrote him a little differently because
Yeah, but
I don't know if I ever explained this to you guys, but the way the series was split up was that there were 4 nobodies. Obviously, you had the World War II like nobody. You had what was his name? Fritz Obermeyer. That was the World War II nobody. There was the homeless nobody, which we didn't get to explore that much, just because Woad wasn't super available during the contest, and we just kind of had to work around that. There was the little girl nobody, and there was Nathan, the future nobody, which was my thing. The little girl was Kirby, I believe. And from there, we just we didn't give each other like super close notes on like, okay, this is the pitch Bible for like White Suit. This is what his deal is. We just kind of like trusted each other to go with our guts and figure out what would be narratively interesting in the context of the nobody that we were working with. And I think it worked out pretty well.
Definitely did.
Like you got to see a consistent like, okay, this is the same dude and he has the same goals and motivations, but also it didn't feel like the character was unchanging. Like there were differences in the ways that I wrote him versus the way Kirby wrote him versus the way Tufto wrote him that I think came through in the text.
Yeah, like we were talking about with collaboration. I think it was the last episode where like if you're working with a group of people and there's sort of like rough outlined goals, then that leaves a lot of room for like organic growth like in between, and then you can kind of like polish out the differences if you have the time to like connect those things, and it really works here. And then Nobody in Their Right Mind, which is the coda, doing this wonderful job of like tying everything together in a satisfying and like emotionally satisfying way.
Yeah.
So you're going to be hearing a lot of nobody in the titles because people like to fuck with that.
Just about everybody who writes
one goddamn joke with this character, and everybody makes it every single goddamn time.
I love it. I don't care. I love it. I've done it
Grigori's
twice.
made it twice. Yeah.
I'll do it a third
Out
time.
of curiosity, simply because I don't think that we ever actually like explained what White Suit's deal was in the text. I'm curious what you guys might have thought it was when you read it.
I thought it was like a side effect. Either a researcher or somebody else that was in the area when the experiment happened, that like the machine or whatever like caused the nobodies to exist, that it like also had created this not anti-mimetic but this other like kind of his deal feels like a pairing of nobodies, except for it's not an unnoticeability thing. Like it felt like the at least in a vague way that his like origins were like intimately tied.
Yeah,
definitely his origins were intimately tied. But I'm just curious what you had in mind. Yeah, Harry.
Like my interpretation was I chose not to have one. I read it and I was like, the whole time I was reading, I kept thinking this guy is really weird. He's obnoxious in an entertaining way, and he's clearly set up as the foil to this character. And the story is intentionally playing exceedingly coy about the man in the white suit in ways it's not playing as coy about the nobodies. And I just decided to vibe with that without trying to speculate. So
fair enough.
I like the left turn that the antagonist throughout is actually, fairly sympathetic. I think that works really well. Like, and not in a way of like, oh, actually the villain isn't totally the bad guy, because every goddamn shitty fiction needs to like try to redeem their awful villain that in the first act they had them commit war crimes or something. This like really was just like, okay, well, it's just literally the antagonist. So his purposes are counter to what nobody's trying to do. But in a way that's actually, they're very involved. I think it works really well.
It does work really well. It works well in every one of the stories in the series. Like, I mean, you could do a whole episode on just this series because all of the articles were great. Totally. The SCPs are all fantastic. The Nobody in the Name Machine one is the climax of the story, and it goes completely crazy. Ghost in the Machine, the one that's the one that's largely set in the future. Yeah, I know. I was reading your author post today on it today, and you said something like, "I haven't slept in 40 hours."
Yeah, that wasn't a joke. I hadn't. And I think if you check the timestamp, let me check the timestamp. Yeah, it's posted at 22:55, which is 5 minutes before the contest closed.
Oh, God.
And that was the article we needed to post in order to qualify. So if I didn't post it in 5 minutes, we would have completely been disqualified from the contest. And you would have placed second instead of third.
We were so close to placing second in the first place, but
let's not even get into that story.
Yeah.
Fucking dicks.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about that.
Oh, I know, but I just wanted to, like just shadow send out my hate.
Yeah, there was downvote brigading, which was ridiculous. That's basically how I met Rounderhouse.
Still won though.
Everybody thought my team was doing it.
Yeah, it was a real mystery situation. Still won though. Like even after you counted the downvotes, we got 100 downvotes, and we were still clearing the competition, which I'm more inordinately pleased about. But
you guys completely kicked everyone's ass, no matter what was going on.
Yeah,
and you were
returning to the point. What we were doing with Nobody was like we liked the idea of him as like an agent of history. We were doing with him as like, okay, things are progressing in a very particular fashion, and for whatever reason, there's this Nobody entity that like jumps between bodies. It like consumes someone's identity and it takes over their body, and it does whatever it needs to do for its mysterious, unidentified purposes to keep history going on the path that it wants history to go.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like I think one of them specifically mentions homeless Nobody being at Kent State in 1971,
Mm-hmm.
which like all of the Nobodies appear at like pivotal points in history for like and are involved to an unclear extent. And I think we were doing after that moment is over and after that Nobody's purpose has been fulfilled, the entity like ditches them. It just jumps to the next person it needs to fulfill its goals, and what it leaves behind is just like a broken person without an identity, without a purpose, without anything. They're just like a shell of a person, which is what Kirby's SCP was about. Like all the like husks that it leaves behind.
Right.
Isn't the man in the white suit sort of one of those people?
That's what we were getting at. Yeah, we were getting
yeah.
at white suit being a bunch of these husks that agreed to like sort of combine into an amalgam.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
into a combine of like a bunch of dudes who fucking hate Nobody and have major beef and want to kill him before he, does this shit to anyone else.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like Nobody, and then white suit is every Nobody that has previously been a Nobody and is now somebody.
Right.
Actually, we were originally going to call him somebody until they talked me out of it, and they were like, that's dumb as fuck. That's not... I was like, you're right.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
It feels like a natural touch that you have to do, and it also feels like a thing you definitely can't do at the same time.
Especially because it's already sort of like stretching credulity that there's a character that's called Nobody, and we've all kind of accepted it, and it works.
Yeah, we just...
But like, it's also, we just, during this recording, we keep laughing about
very
it.
stupid.
So it's just like, we can't do that. But
The somebody thing reminds me of this awful thing.
I don't know if
DC
he's even
Comics
ever
did.
actually like identified as Nobody in the context of the series. Like I don't remember if we ever actually call him that, or if it's like an out of universe name.
It's only done once or twice. I think it's one of the last lines in the epilogue does it. But yeah, generally you don't do it.
That would do it. Yeah.
The somebody thing just reminded me of this horrible DC Comics thing they did not long ago, where Two-Face fixed his face and angrily announced that he was now One-Face.
It's the stupidest thing. God, DC's so dumb sometimes.
Just because your premise seems to suggest that you can do a thing doesn't mean it needs to be done.
Yeah, not always a good idea.
Good God.
One-Face.
Actually, no. I took a lot of
guy.
interpretation from some comics for Whitesuit's design, at least in my run of writing him.
Right.
I very specifically modeled him after Mr. Knight from Jeff Lemire's run of Moon Knight. Like this, like weird fucking like mercenary private investigator dude who like clearly has some kind of agenda and it just like appears in random places.
I could definitely see
like-
comic influences in Ghosts in the Machine, although it's also a bit anime and it's also a bit fucking crazy sci-fi future.
Yeah. In retrospect, I have issues with that tale, but like I think it's fine. But
Overall,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Nobody in the Right Mind is like an epilogue to the story, and there's really no point in like going into massive detail about what happens in there, but I thought I would read out just one little section of Tufto's kind of insane prose. When this is all like 3 like consecutive paragraphs. In 1969, nobody walking down a sidewalk in Iowa, staring at the cornfields. Some little part of him felt a wave of nostalgia, but he didn't understand why. So he found a barn and sat in the hay and thought, and remembered another wheat field in Europe so long ago. He hadn't realized he could feel nostalgia for past lives. It had almost hurt, so he moved on. In 2003, nobody had dragged a slowly dying body to a gas station in Montana. It was winter, the roads were cold, he was out of time. It was foggy all around, and he thought of Berlin, and the young American officer, and the man with his fucking hunting rifle, and he stared upwards and laughed, because it had happened to him, and it had never happened. And the man in the white suit had remembered too, at different times in different places. He remembered shooting an arrow in a Hungarian wheat field, the hatred he felt for his death stalker. He hadn't known why at the time. That took much longer. And he remembered Berlin as well. He remembered Berlin too. He remembered the fog. He remembered the pain in his kneecaps and the cold of the grave. Just fucking...
It's so good.
So
Tufto knows what he's doing.
And like, it was sections like this in the epilogue that do this wonderful job of like, I feel like the Tale series already did a good job. They felt connected, that there was this core common premise and a progression of time, but this creates this great capstone to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because it's just like in Nobody in the Name Machine, nobody dies. Not like the nobodies, but like the nobody entity gets. Yeah, the concept of nobody gets killed by the white suit, and white suit also ends up dying in the process.
And all the people that were eaten up by these things get popped out.
Yeah, and we'd spent a lot of time writing these characters and like playing with them and working with them, and it was like just intensely gratifying to see them like finally move past all the shit we put them through for once.
Yeah, it's
and like the very last 2 paragraphs, they always make me intensely happy. It's like he turns away, he sees Haley and Vin, maybe he'll go drinking with them tonight, maybe not. It doesn't matter. He thinks of the books in his room and the colors of his walls. He thinks of protein paste and antimatter, cold nights on the Ohio River and colder ones in New Portland. He flexes his fingers and wonders where Lou and Sarah are. He should get back in touch. Bones turn to dust outside Potsdam. An old house is silent in Longmont. The sky shines and the night moves on. Radio towers call over great distances. Computers flash in the dimming rays of the sun. Nobody can remember them all. So fucking good.
Yeah.
It's really stirring.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
And like
good.
Crazy hopeful for a Tale series that was a lot of fun, but also was pretty bleak in times.
Yeah, it was miserable for everyone involved. Like I think like particularly the initial tale, like Hello, My Name Isn't. It's fun and it like gets you across like what the characters are dealing with, but it's like it doesn't quite give the intense like horrifying realization that you've been like snapped out of reality. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fucked up Tale series, but like the ending makes me happy. And then we equalized the depression with the bonus tale.
That's right. Which we're going to talk
bonus
about.
tale.
Nobody's observations on rejected nobody applications.
Fucking silly.
Which is just a bunch of little snippets of interviews by nobody for the most part, these were all references to other teams' characters, right?
There were a lot of them, yeah.
Some of them are just jokes we thought were funny, but were stupid.
Fair enough. I especially like the Kaiju Nobody. It's just
Kaiju
fucking
Nobody was fun.
So fun. It's just fucking frustrating.
I liked No Tag and Snowbody.
Oh yeah. Oh, and he shows me in belts, and he's like, "Wow, you really went for it, kid."
Fucking Snowbody.
Yeah.
I like
fucking Snowbody.
I like the Dr. Dan reference.
Yep. I was flattered. Since that's a reference to me. Sure, it's a reference to my team, but it's a reference to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you stole that character and made it your own.
I stole that character and used him to steal
jokes in this
the
is so
series.
fucking mean.
Yep.
Is that one that's like, do you have any experience being forgotten? He was like, I was a character in a Cadden from 2015. He says, oh, you're a pro. I got it. I wrote that one. I remember.
Of course.
Yep. I'm assuming you wrote the one that complains about stealing Solidarity as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and everyone forgot about me after the. Yeah, well, everyone forgot about that Tale series.
All of these were me and Kirby, and I think one of them. But yeah, it was mostly me and Kirby joking around.
I'm assuming all the mean-spirited ones are you.
Yeah, pretty much. I know what I'm good at.
Well, we're an hour in and we've covered a third, so let's
Great tie. Great.
We've covered
great
most
stuff.
of the ones that matter the most, so it's okay.
That's right.
Nice.
We just haven't covered Grigori's.
We haven't covered any of the other ones.
I said the ones that matter. So
we got tougher than me. Who else
thank you
matters?
so much. So the next one is The Woman Who Wasn't There, which was by IP. And this was part of Black
Girl
Autumn.
boss.
Yeah, this is part of Black Autumn 4. So, and we've talked about Black Autumn before, but just to kind of remind, this was the not yearly, but oftentimes tied into Halloween series of tales that IP did around SCP Plastics that felt like, the Avengers every time. Like it was like a big kind of overarching story. And one of the characters he used a lot was Allison Carroll, who in this story essentially turns into a nobody.
yes, his own very specific version of Nobody.
Right. So, SNC Plastics is, people say it's pataphysics, but it's really just talking about the idea of like narratives being like having a reality, like a real like feeling or a real like connection to the way events work.
Yeah,
And
they don't jump into other pieces of fiction. Their
Right.
lives are just ruled by fiction rules.
That's really ironic you said that because yours does.
Yeah, mine literally does exactly that, yeah.
But so this is, it's really the point to take away here is that the new idea of Nobody, which is these are people that are like sort of agents of the narrative. They fulfill very specific roles. They have like archetypes, and this is a Nobody that is like the editor, which you use for a really good joke in years later on.
Yes. Yes. Mean-spirited joke about somebody who deserves mean-spirited jokes
He's
about
dead.
them.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But there's a line here that's because I'm nobody and nobodies don't have backstories. Not really. You stumbled into this honestly. If you had to succeed on performing narrative necromancy on your best friend, we might never have noticed you.
Right.
So
Because
good.
the thing that this character can do is because their life is a narrative, they can edit the narrative that you are reading and make it slightly different so that things go a little bit better for what they want.
So it's like reality warping, but in a very like constrained sort of way. And there's like price to it as well.
Yeah. Because it's a person who has friends and a job and all of those things, and
Right.
is not going to have them for very long because the
because-
nobody effect progressively erases it all.
Yeah, so we get to see someone actually turn into a nobody here. And this is one that like only really fits in like IP's stories because it has to do with those narrative things. But again, I picked it because A, I really like Black Autumn, but B, it just is another example of how you can just take this idea, this premise of somebody who has this perception filter and just like use it however the fuck you want. And it is, Randall, you were saying like, the stuff that happened in The Man Who Wasn't There canon didn't feel connected. And it's like, yeah, okay, but like just do something else with it. And you guys did. Like, and it just works. Like there's no one's going to get mad at you being like, this doesn't match the kid. No, this is Nobody.
Yep.
It's Nobody.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't look at Grigori's picks before I started trying to make my picks for this episode, and this was one of them automatically. And then I saw your list, and I was like, "Oh, cripes! I need to think
Yeah,
of something
Black
else."
Autumn's very good.
And then you end up using that character later on as well.
Yeah,
But the thing I really like about it is, and it's also kind of followed up in the next tale because this is one of his like major characters, at least in the Black Autumn stuff.
Yep.
And he just sort of like, I mean, he didn't make her useless for the story, but all of a sudden she couldn't be the focus anymore because now she's a nobody. And we get to watch how that kind of pops
it's
out.
meaningful, which isn't something you see a lot. You don't see anybody turning their established characters with important purposes in the story into nobody very often.
Right. Yeah. And we don't normally see people turn into nobodies at all. That's another reason why I like The Man in the White Suit, because we get to see that process happen.
Right.
But this one you picked, which is Documents Recovered in Honshu, I was not even aware this was a thing until you picked it.
Yeah, me neither.
I fucking love this. This is so
I was
cool.
just strolling through the tag and I found this one, and my first thought was, "Hey, look, mixed media, that's neat." And my second thought was, "This one's really short. They won't be mad if I add it."
Flick.
I mean, that does work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's during surveying the nearby villages, Agent Blank found the documents lying in an abandoned hotel suite. The different mediums and handwriting suggest multiple parties, but they feel like it was connected to nobody. And basically that's the end of the prose. Like, it goes in a little more detail than that. And there's 2 collapsibles. And the collapsibles open up to show actual, like, scans of these fucked up water damaged notes that people were writing to themselves. And the first one's really fucked up, but
Yeah, the first one is very, 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 very fucked up. And this takes place, the framing narrative of these documents takes place after a major typhoon. So the implication is this whole place is being seriously trashed, which explains the water damage and all that stuff. And nobody has gone looking for a successor in this very problematic time in a location in Japan.
Yeah, like, this is what I mean. It always ties, like, this isn't just like wetsuit either. Like, it always seems to tie into like nobody appearing at like random pivotal historical moments, or like issues of like great like social like problems or something, and just like fucking around for unclear purposes.
Definitely.
But the amount of effort that went into this, because this is clearly just scans of something that somebody physically wrote, and this one is by Phantom Clock,
right?
And it is like dramatically underrated.
Yes, it's dramatically underrated, and then you go into the comments, and the comments are all, "This is really good."
Yeah, it's fucking, it's incredible.
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
One of them is an author post, and one of them is like an image thing, so I'm not even counting those.
Fair enough.
There's always
I think the first image is a Photoshop, but I think the rest might be like written out and scanned, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and even if the first one was Photoshop, it looks like super believable.
Yeah, it's very good.
And any mixed media is awesome, especially when you tell, I mean, because we are so frequently in SCPs being like, oh, this note was found or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And then we open this collapsible. Oh, these are just the fucking notes. This isn't, some text. This is somebody's bleeding ink on a yellowing page, slowly losing their shit as they become nobody.
Yep.
Yeah, I felt that.
It's really good.
It is really good.
But I mean,
there's not a whole lot to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of want to sell the, anyone that puts in this kind of effort deserves more recognition. So
for sure,
people go. It's like a 2-minute read. But it's fucking brilliant.
Yep.
And I want to steal it, and I probably will steal it. So another one I picked was "Note Your Name Is Nobody" by never know how to say it. Iapetus the Acasual.
That would be Iapetus the Acausal.
Sure.
As in Iapetus the either has no cause or behaves in ways that have no cause or is related to having no cause.
But I really like this one because it fits that, if there is a GOI format for nobody, it is this notes to themselves thing because, kind of a running thread between so many of these documents are they are people that they're so unnoticeable that they have trouble remembering things. Right. And so this is, what is that movie where it's all played backwards? Christopher
Memento.
Nolan? Memento, thank you. So this feels very much like Memento, where it's literally instructions for how, okay, well, what about this? Write everything down. The hands on the walls are powerful anti-memes. If a meme is information that spreads itself, an anti-meme is information that prevents itself from being spread. You're also an anti-meme, but it's not as powerful. It's less, it could be cheap in the sense that it's just, this character talking to themselves, but it works.
I think it works
Especially because a lot of these, and I tried to do that as well, they're all done in first person, but they don't feel like first person narrative in a traditional sense. They're very much, an epistolary novel sort of thing, like Dracula or something else, but just very, quickly scratched down on a piece of paper, and typically the font used is meant to imply that as well.
Yeah, and I think this one's nice because it actually provides like an explanation for why he's writing shit down. Like with the anti-meme and shit. Like most other nobody ones, they just kind of like go by pure vibes. But this one is like a reason, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, like I like we were just saying, the last one that we're talking about is good. It also has a moment where the person is watching somebody walk up their, listening to somebody walk up their stairs, and is taking the time to write that down in their notebook.
Yeah, that's always fun.
I also like the note that is punk as hell. You have a bag of white powder in your right pocket. It is cocaine, crushed up Adderall, and some combination of the two. The name of the bag, I don't even understand. The name on the bag is not yours. Because dealers like put your name on it. Snore more if you feel yourself getting tired or unfocused. You cannot afford to let your mind wander. Also, don't worry about the monastics and uppers interacting. You'll be fine.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Oh, have we?
I haven't.
No, I've never taken Adderall.
It's because you're square.
I am. I'm so fucking square. But you're round, so I guess that's your excuse.
Yeah.
Triangle.
That one was coming.
He's
Triangle,
triangular.
yes. At the moment, triangled. But yeah, this one's very good, and this one is. Oh my god, have you guys ever seen the original Nobody format?
No.
I don't recall. I might have.
I thought
but
this
don't
was
think
it.
so.
So what is the original?
No. This was the remade one made by Cole. Not the Cole you guys know, a different Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But in like 2018 or 2019. But like the original, oh my god, it's ridiculously bad. Like I don't mean like the content, but like it is like genuinely like simply unreadable. There's got to be hold on, let me find this shit.
While you're finding that shit, I just want to say this one heavily relies on and uses there is no anti-memetics division by Quantum, and it uses it really well. It's one of the better chapters.
Oh, okay, yes, I found it. And wouldn't you know it, the first one is about the 963 amulet. That's perfect.
Oh, good, wonderful,
Great.
Look at this. This is. Can you read this? Look at this.
Oh, what the fuck is this? This is horrible.
Yeah.
It's so small.
It's okay. It's in tablet
It's actually
form.
decently readable on my desktop. On your phone, it's completely like this.
Oh, yeah.
Does not make a lick of sense.
Yeah,
Also,
It's like
who
30 words
Yeah,
altogether.
I was gonna be like, oh, who wrote this?
Oh, wow, this is bad.
I don't even know.
I was gonna say it's really low fucking effort, but I don't really like give anybody shit. I don't know who that person
The
is.
writing,
So I
the
can
writing
say,
might be good. I just haven't read it, and it's really hard to read.
Yeah, the writing's good. The words are great. All like 40 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's
You know,
I
don't
like
think- I don't
needless
think
to
we
say
can
the
talk
new
about
one
this
is
because it's not going to be polite.
yeah. Yeah, but I like the new one a lot more. Like a ton more personality and like you just get to fuck with it a lot more. Like in White Suit, we had each Nobody have their own like style of journal, which I had a lot of fun with making the styling for. Like the little girl Nobody has like a little diary, like a pink diary with like flowers and shit.
yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one tale you
the
did
format
was
is very fun.
It's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
because most of the things in your series they deal with one time period and one version of Nobody, and you did that one that's from the multiple different Nobodies at once, right? That was early on.
Yeah, Nobody, and Nobody's observations on Nobody. We're on the man at the white suit.
And that name too was a play on one of the earlier Nobody articles, right? There were a couple Nobody's observations.
Yeah, there's
on?
a couple of Nobody articles that are framed as like Nobody's observations on XYZ.
Right. You're very good at website archaeology.
Yeah, thanks. You're really good at. Well, we have an actual archaeologist here, so.
Well, I'm not an archaeologist.
No.
No? Am I wrong?
I've watched 18 series of Time Team.
Not you, the other one.
I studied in undergrad, so I can't call myself an archaeologist.
It's close enough.
It's closer.
I thought it was anthropology.
Yeah, but archaeology is anthropology.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, there's cultural anthropology, and then there's archaeology, and they're mostly focused on whether or not something is in the past, or if you can go observe those people. But the concepts are very,
yeah.
like
I didn't
the
know
central
that. Yeah,
the central tenets are not the same, but they
I
come from the
appreciate
same
that Harry
place.
thought I was talking about him for like
I know.
3 or 4 exchanges.
Well, it's like
because I forgot about the archaeology thing.
Well, because it's mostly law bullshit I talk about now. But yeah, it's funny because I'm sure you get this a lot too, where people are like, "Oh, history, is that like digging in it like Indiana Jones?" It's like, no, that's not. And then because I say this because I don't know how many times people have said, "Oh, archaeology, you mean like Ross on Friends?" And I just want to lose my shit. Yeah, just like that. He dug up dinosaurs and talked about their culture. Yeah. Good job.
God, I would really lose my shit if people brought up Friends in my presence frequently.
Yeah. Friends is bad.
Yeah.
Also a very Grigori statement.
Friends is bad.
Friends are bad. Case in point, ROUNDERHOUSE.
Friends is bad.
I like nobody.
Friends is bad.
I said I love nobody. It was even darker.
Better or worse?
I think that needs to be the title of this.
I'm pretty sold on Nobody Likes SCP.
It's a good title, but I mean, I'm gonna be thinking about I Love Nobody for a really long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's keep going.
I
So
Love Nobody, Friends is bad.
you picked, and yet another incredible prose is Uranium Empire wrote Asmodeus, which is
Oh, I love this series.
fucking so cool. So it's set in unfounded, which means there's no foundation, and this is utilizing Parawatch to talk about, SCP-682, but it's not called that, obviously. And then also it's Nobody, and uses Nobody in like the fucking best way. It's just so funny.
Yeah, so, go on.
Well, just, so I don't know if, the listeners will remember from our Parawatch episode, but that in-universe is like a forum board where people talk about like cryptids and weird sayings or whatever. And so part of the format is often, not always, but often people responding to the entries from the authors. And what's cool about this is an entry written by Uranium Empire in universe, like in fiction, which is pretty funny. And then we keep getting these warnings from somebody called Null that no one is responding to, and he's just constantly, he or she or they, either way, is constantly like going, "You're gonna kill yourself. This is so dangerous. Listen, can you stop enabling this person?" And no one's ever responding to them, and it just gets to the point where we've got Null like writing like 8 messages in a row that no one's responding to.
Yep.
I mean, it's a fun story in general, but the angle on Nobody is like really well done. Well, what if nobody wrote on a forum post, but no one would notice it?
Yeah, because nobody can't do any of the things you can do in person to make sure someone's looking at you when they're on the internet.
Right.
This whole series was great. There's only 4 entries in it,
Right.
And this was one of the other extraordinarily heavy teams. This was Uranium Empire, Ace Mallard, the Great Hippo, and Soulless Singularity, which is a terrifying combination of people. And all the entries in this were phenomenal. There weren't very many, but they were all phenomenal.
Yeah, they were really good. This one,
I'm going to be using one of them later on when I talk about the only good factory articles.
Oh, are we actually going to do that episode?
Yeah, well, I keep forgetting to start it up, but just the opportunity to talk about Let the Factory Fail by Great Hippo, which is one of the
I was
best
just thinking
articles on the
about
wiki.
that. What a fucking funny tale.
So
It's
fucking
so
good. I almost included it here because nobody's in it as well, but I used Asmodeus instead because I like it, and also I want to be able to do that one later.
I was going to say we could do the King Textile, but we already did that one for Parawatch, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I was planning. Also, I was almost suggested doing this toy facsimile of life for Nobody because nobody's in that, and I'm pretty sure we did that for the Wondertainment episode with Dark Stuff.
We've done so many episodes now; it's great.
We've done
can
like
you remember?
30 something. Where are we at now?
No, this is 28, but close enough.
28.
Yeah,
We're getting there.
yeah. But yeah, it's great because this touches on so many different things. Like if you've been living under a rock, you may not have heard of my good friend Allison at Black Queen on Twitter. It's just like there's so many throwaway like references to other stuff, but it never feels cheap. It's just fun. Like it's so it works so well. Like the whole thing's about fucking SCP-682. How ridiculous is that? Well, what if fucking Parawatch was, investigating this giant lizard out in the fucking Pacific Northwest?
Yep.
It's so good.
Yep. It's definitely good. And how's it rated? The things in this, plus 80. The things
Pretty
in this
good.
one are way underrated, though. They kind of fell off in the rankings in the contest, and it's really unfortunate because these are like really, really good articles, all of them.
I think most of my tales for the Canaran contest were under 80, except for a couple. But there was, like you said, there was only 4 of them, so
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for them to get a top 5.
There was a lot of shit thrown at this contest when it happened, but I don't know. I look back on it, and so much of this stuff was really, really, really good.
I look back at, I mean, that is absolutely true. There's so many good things about it, but I also look back at it, and this is the first time I feel like I was really like getting involved in the site.
Yeah, same here. This was for both of us. This was our first time of not writing about just our own shit.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like expanding, like, oh, I guess I could do a little comedy, or I guess I could do established characters.
Yeah. And Rounderhouse, just doing. I guess I could win a contest because
Oh, shocker!
Hardly ever wins.
Shocker!
I deserve it.
So ignored, Rounderhouse. So ignored. It must be so hard.
I deserve to have at least one win before I retire.
I'm gonna fucking throw up on you.
Hardly throw up on him even.
That's right.
Jesus.
That was weirdly aggressive. Like a baby spouting threat.
Or a drunk.
Or Jack Dragon X.
Drunk baby.
Anyway, yeah. What did you want to say about this one?
Me? Hell,
Yeah.
Rounderhouse.
Well, you.
I can never tell who's talking about it. What did I pick? I already said what I liked about it, but I mean,
I fucking love the Asmodee series. Like, it's just amazing.
yeah, that's
Like,
it's
I thought it was severely underrated during the contest. Like, it was one of my 2 underrated series.
Yeah,
And
it's great.
Yeah, and like, I thought it was integrated Nobody in a very fun way, because like it never goes explicit, and it's like this is Nobody, but like you can very clearly tell like through context that it's Nobody.
Yeah,
and it's I especially like Asmodeus because it's a very like Parawatch is a very strict format that it ends up following, but this is very different, which I appreciate. Like it's more of like a live blog type situation rather than like a 4chan X thread, which is what usually they're modeled after. It's a fun weird thing, which is pretty much what you expect from UE.
Right. Yeah, I totally stole that that mode of it being like a live update thing for the Deva one.
right.
Like intentionally.
Definitely. Your unspoken other underrated team, I'm assuming, is the Brave Mujahideen Zombies of Afghanistan. Rounder?
Yeah. I like that one a lot, except the ending tale, but yeah, all the stuff before that very, very good.
Yes, I agree with both of those statements.
I don't even remember reading that.
I do that and then just don't click the last link and you'll be fine.
Yeah, just pretend the last one's not there. It's all good.
I'm a hater. I'm a professional hater.
That's all right. I forgive you. So here's where we get to the like fucking aggrandizing part of it, because the last 2 ones are one by myself and then one by Harry.
Mine is such a lazy self-aggrandizement because I only did it because I couldn't think of a third one.
Well,
after you took 2 of my ideas.
What were the other one you were gonna do?
I don't know. Your Name's Nobody, actually. That was the one I was gonna do as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I did one, and I did it specifically because I was like trying to think of. So for those of you probably know if you're listening to this, but
those of you who are bad listeners and haven't listened to several of the episodes that happened before this.
So we did a pretty ridiculously large thing called SCP-6500, which was aggressively called this isn't an SCP, this is a cannon hub. And so to shit in those people's faces, we made a cannon. That's not why we did it, but
Grigori does all of his bodily functions in other people's faces.
That's right. It's just my kink. That's the way it is. And we kind of did this. No, I'm not doing it. Too lazy. No, I don't care. Unless it's like genuinely offensive, I'm not adding anything out. But we did this kind of split timeline thing where, whether or not the Foundation was going to dissolve, which, whatever. But I was very, very focused on Vanguard, which is the one where, I thought we could do the most world building because that's where the Foundation is dissolving and becoming this new thing. But I really wanted to contribute to the other side, which was, the kind of Foundation is covering up this horrible event that's happened and their involvement with it. And I couldn't think of a way to tackle it. And then I just thought, well, I'll just do a Nobody tale of a Nobody that kind of trips over finding out about these crazy events, and then use it, similarly to the way that Rounder's team used it, in the fact that this is somebody who can get into and around like all these important events and important places because no one pays attention to them. And tried to expand it a bit in terms of like how they actually use the abilities, because I really tried to focus in on how that works and whether or not they can control it at all. Like, if they really focus in on it, they could make somebody notice them right in that moment and then forget about them, etc., etc. And then I also broke that rule because I had 2 nobodies by the end of this first tale.
The point of any kind of rule for collaborative fiction is to guide the people who don't know what they're doing yet. Once you know what you're doing, you can start breaking rules. Yeah,
no kidding. But I did take that and ran with it with the whole, what I brought up earlier, the epistolary novel thing, because that's what I loved the most about the Nobody concepts, was these notes to themselves. But then I kind of thought, I don't really want to do that for a whole tale, and so I started splicing in like documents that she was reading. So she's in a Foundation site, so she just starts like fucking with their skipnet and going like, oh, I'm just gonna download this email, and then the reader gets to read it, even though she obviously I actually think she does print them out so she can show people. And made a fucking Class C cognito hazard. If you've received this file by mistake, please report it to your nearest RISA representative, which I don't think I would ever actually put into an SCP, but I did it here just to make fun of the Foundation.
Yeah, there's a lot of making fun of in this story. The story has a lot of character in this version of Nobody, and
one of my paragraphs opens up with those absolute twats.
Yes, this character has a literal voice. You can hear their accent when you read, but it also has very irreverent style, which I think is just exemplified by the fact that they dislike somebody so much that when this person's conversation with them is transcribed, their dialogue tag that they give to this person is wanker.
Yes.
And they just call them wanker for the entirety of the log.
So funny. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's not a real Nobody article unless nobody's getting like hated on by everyone involved. Like, I believe there's a sequence in White Suit where Fritz Obermeyer bites he bites the Foundation agent who's after him, and then like 40 years later, her grandson also gets bitten by Nobody.
Bitten by a radioactive Nobody.
Yeah. That's how they got the sick name powers. They were bitten by a radioactive birth certificate.
And I was like trying to think of a way to like figure out a way to do a conversation like log between 2 nobodies. And so one of them is me and one of them is him.
Yes. I really enjoy this one. There's a lot of character to it and a lot of detail.
I like this one because it says that there's a way into the library from the Field Museum, which, as a noted library fan and as a noted Field Museum fan, big fan.
I'm a fan of both. I love the Field Museum.
Really designed for you personally.
But not because of Sue the Tyrannosaurus Rex or whatever. I love it because of those lions from the Ghost in the Darkness.
I love it for the everything, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a great museum, honestly. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. There's really no point in going into like the point is that this sets up Nobody to try and figure out what the hell happened in 6500. But obviously, I didn't just want to like recap the 96,000 word thing we just did. So instead, it's somebody who's completely ignorant of the way that the anomalous world works and getting introduced to a lot of different things and trying to figure shit out, mostly through irreverent conversations with other people.
And you had so much to say that you ended up writing a second one too, and just nobody's looking for trouble. And I'm assuming at some point probably more.
Yeah, probably a third. But yeah, this one's called Nobody Likes to Sneak, and then the next one was Nobody is Looking for Trouble. Yeah. Fun times. And then for our last,
the last one will be called Nobody Likes Threequels.
That's right. But for our final piece to discuss today, There Is No Color Out of Space by Harry Blank.
Yes, one of my lowest rated pieces on the SCP wiki.
Well, it was a gift, right? It was a holiday exchange thing?
Yeah, it was an art exchange gift. It was a pinch hit, which is a thing that happens where if whoever is originally going to give the gift to somebody cannot finish their gift and they throw it back to the organizers, and the organizers grab the people who volunteered to do the pinch hitting and go, can you do this quickly? And in this case, I was asked to quickly do something that combined pataphysics and there is no anti-memetics division, which is an insane thing to ask someone to do quickly.
No kidding.
But I did it anyway. I think they might have even asked for S&C plastics too. I can't remember what the exact ask
So this
was
wasn't for IP. This was for somebody else, huh?
Yeah, this was for somebody else, and I don't remember their name,
Nice.
but it's okay because they never acknowledged it at all, and I think they dipped on
Oh
their
no!
I don't even think I mentioned them in the author post because
You didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone gives you a Christmas present, do say thank you at least, jeez. But anyway, I posted it just because I thought it was pretty good, and not everybody has thought it was pretty good, but I still think it's pretty good.
I think it's great. And for an art exchange thing, it's pretty highly rated because those mostly get ignored. Mine
That's true.
is like 12.
Oh no! I've always been exceedingly happy with my art exchange.
Oh, wow. You mean Rounderhouse gets more attention? Huh.
No.
Weird.
I mean the ones I make, and my gifties end up loving them, which makes me happy.
Oh, I'm really
No, what we're
pleased
talking
with
about,
what we did.
no, we're not talking about shit about whether people like it or not, man. We're talking about important stuff, which is what the number is that gets attached.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, that's a universal issue. Like the art exchange I gave for Dagon, or not Dagon, Dis last year is like one of my I think it's my lowest rated tale.
Yeah, I mean,
all of my lowest rated tales are art exchanges.
yeah, of course,
Art
because
exchange
it's
stuff
really
just doesn't get read. which
well,
is
it's
weird.
made for like one person basically. Even if
Yeah,
it's
pretty
good, there's so many things that are dropped in that week, and it's usually during like winter break. So I assume a lot of
Yeah.
people are pretty busy.
There's a readership lull. There's too much stuff.
I'm gonna call out
T.
I'm gonna call out T.
Dagon
Rutherford
was
for.
pestering me to post the one I made for him earlier because I straight up forgot.
What were you saying?
Oh, that I'm gonna call out T. Rutherford for never even commenting on my gift to them, though they did upload it.
Well, that's all that matters. It's the thought that counts.
You're like, yes.
Yeah, but anyway, I never heard whether this person liked it or not.
Well, I like it a lot.
Yeah. They probably didn't.
Fuck them.
Merry Christmas, whoever you were.
But you tied this in pretty well with the story that we talked about earlier, or that kind of continuing narrative that it set up about the nobodies in Black Autumn, which played in really well, I think.
Yeah, I tried to just smash a whole bunch of concepts together and see what would make sense, because there is no anti-memetics division deals with a lot of stuff where people don't remember what's going on or can't even see it because it's impossible to form memories about it. And I was asked to combine that with pataphysics, and I thought, well, what's something incomprehensible? Obviously, it's going to be H.P. Lovecraft in some sense. That's because I'm trying to do this within a day or two. Read the entirety of There Is No Anti-Memetics Division in a rush and enjoyed it tremendously. Had never read it, despite having been told to read it constantly, particularly by placeholder. Adored it because, of course, it's impossible to read There Is No Anti-Memetics Division without adoring it, because it's
good,
damn near perfect.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It's it has a few faltering parts, but even faltering parts in the best tale series on the site is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean,
the-
it's all
the
got
only-
such a sense of place and tone.
Yeah.
It's- and various
Characters are
ones.
Yeah. Sorry?
No,
Various ones.
just in terms of tone, it goes from
Oh, yeah.
interesting Foundation politics type stuff to eldritch horror to kind of almost like an adventure story. It's all over the place, but in a good way. It's crazy good.
And Marion Wheeler is one of the best characters on the wiki, which is not a brave thing to say by any stretch.
No.
Yeah, if I was to say there's a flaw in There Is No Anti-Memetics Division, it's the part where the existence of an anti-memetic
the
afterlife-
whole Araru and stuff is always kind of awkward because it comes out of nowhere and then it's gone and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
On the wiki, you can click the hyperlink, and in the text edition, there is no hyperlink because it's a
Father, I cannot click the book.
So that one section does not explain itself at all. And
It does not make any sense.
Other than that, it's perfect. It's even better than the wiki version because it cuts out the superfluous interview that's on SCP-055.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, because in 055 it goes, it's an anomalous thing and you can't remember any details about it, blah, blah, blah. And then there's an interview log at the end that does exactly the same thing as the preceding text.
Okay, fair enough.
And it just doesn't appear in the... Because I don't think...
Yeah, my quantum book is the other one, Humans in Interdimensional Travel, or I forget the title.
Nice.
Have you read that? Is it good?
I've read some of the stories in it. It's an anthology of short stories.
Yeah.
Nice.
I haven't read all of them.
Quantum is awesome. But anyway...
God, is there anybody that's ever released a book of short stories where they've all been awesome? Like, I feel like there's always a... I can't think of a single anthology where every single one I liked.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's always going to be some stinkers in
It's
there.
hard.
Like, that's how stuff is, yeah.
Yeah. And not
I
to
haven't
shit
gotten
on
to any I
quantum.
thought were like, this is not good.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, you want to read some emails?
Sure.
All right. Who wants to read Ferns? Harry, read Ferns.
Harry, read Ferns.
Ferns. Glad to see you guys doing an episode on a very underrated GOI. POI? It's fuzzy. My question is simple. Would you guys ever do an episode about the different contests the wiki had, excluding
Oh, why?
obviously.
Someone mentioned contests?
Contests?
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, I want to.
Sure.
We've been talking about doing cannons for so long that I kind of want to hit that next after we finish with GOIs. But
This was all a long con to talk about my canon for 3 hours.
That's right.
Yeah, his famous
Our-
canon, No Return.
Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? I forgot to bring it up, but No Return. I recently counted the articles, and we have over 45 articles in that thing that started like a
Nice.
year and a half ago.
Wow, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
only 37 of them were written by Gesma.
Fucking 8 of them. Which would make it... Although I really appreciate, like, especially in this dry period for myself, where I've got a bunch of ideas about how to expand it, but I haven't really been writing. Gizmo's like, "Oh, I've got another idea." I'm like, "Great, keep this
Gesma has so
keep
many
this
ideas.
thing alive."
Yes.
Also, it's really fun.
So yeah, we'd like to do contests, and I heard the noises coming from Rounderhouse. I imagine he's interested in contests for some strange reason.
Yeah. I feel I can't be on a contest episode. That would be a conflict of interest.
Oh, you're on the contest team, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, you can't be. Are you?
No, I'm
Are you
not
on?
actually. I'm not. I was brought on as an independent contractor.
Yeah, I was
for
going to say you're not going to be on the
Barbary
contest team because they're disqualified from the contest.
Yeah,
So-
fuck that shit. I run the contests for the library, and it's always like agonizing when we run one. And I'm like, have fun, guys, and I don't get to participate.
It's fun watching him sit there, just like literally visible over the internet, sweat beads forming on his forehead as he goes, "Please, somebody contribute to this contest. Come on, start posting."
And they do, but they always make me wait until like the last day because all of my users are terrible people.
All the writers in this conjoined
all
community
writers.
are
All
last
writers.
minute people.
We're
Yeah,
all
they
terrible.
hate specifically me. And for the library, that's not even like an exaggeration. That's like, I know everyone there by name, and I can assure you that part's true. They live to make me suffer.
Rounder, you have the outline up in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
You want to read Teeth's email?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Teeth. Hello. Is anybody there? Anyone at all? Nobody. Weird.
Nobody's made
We
it.
can't
I might just-
mock this humor. We've been doing it the whole episode.
Yeah, but we're hosts.
We've also been mocking each other doing it. So.
That's true.
It's one big mock that the community's based
Yeah.
on.
I think that I might just never reverence my past emails, seeing as all the jokes never make sense. Autocorrect and dyslexia are not a fun duo, but I swear they make sense. I swear. I believe you. But besides the point, I am very excited for this episode, as I am for every single one, but I have more of a reason this time. Really, an episode with my favorite author on the site. Why wouldn't I be hyped? I'm so glad you're such a big fan of Harry Blank.
Yeah.
Who isn't?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've never been on an episode of this before. And I'm glad
Yeah,
they
it's
they
completely
found out.
new.
I'm glad they figured out that I was going to be on this episode.
Yeah,
And
they
messed
killed
with
the
it.
preceding Harry
Well, this
clone,
is
and
why
they brought
Teeth
you
is
fresh out of
excited.
the walk-in freezer for this.
Walk-in freeze.
It's supposed to be
fucking
more like
Rocky
a
Horror
vat,
Picture
wouldn't
Show.
it?
This person just called you your favorite author, and you can't even finish their email without interrupting.
No, I'm reading. They've called me that before, and I always love it. Thank you very much, Teeth. I don't have much to say on the topic because I've never read anything about Nobody, but I'm very excited to learn. As all I really know, shut up. As all I really know is from passing conversation and small snippets. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful time recording, that editing goes very smoothly, and that this email makes even a tiniest bit of sense this time. I fucking heard Harry like giggling to himself in the background.
When I had to stop laughing at the nobody jokes, I mentally promised myself I would start again by the end. It's the only way I could get through it.
This is the important aspects of podcasting, is making deals with yourself.
Yes.
So this next email is from Randy. Before I start, I swear I try to remember to write emails for each episode, but I still fail to. But since this is a nobody episode, I had to try harder.
It's hard to focus on nobody.
And Randy, you've written a lot of emails for us, and we really appreciate it.
We do.
Don't worry about it. Nobody is a GOI I've always been interested in. You're not interested in any GOIs? Sorry. It's probably one of the best, or one of the first I deep dived into when I discovered the wiki. It being one of the first ones GOIs for me means I barely remember anything. And I hope this episode reminds me, but also shows me more about Nobody. It's all very apropos for Nobody, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Need to learn more about Nobody.
Also, I really appreciate that Randy almost always includes a question. And this time, what aspect of Nobody do you think is unexplored? That's about it. I don't have much to say. I'm just excited to listen to the episode. So, what do you guys think an aspect of Nobody is unexplored?
That's a good question.
I actually think different settings. I think, like you said, it really lends itself to noir, but I think because of the way that people have used it in different historical periods, it would actually work really well as, like you were saying, like a samurai or, whatever. Like you could do some really, like I said, there's really no limits to it. It could work really well in a lot of different settings.
I think that someone should make Samurai Nobody a reality, because I'm very sad that never panned out.
I would definitely sign on for reading about Samurai Nobody.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't have an answer to the question. I can't think of anything.
That's okay.
Well, we tried.
All right, Harry, you want to read this next one?
Did you read the end of the email? Because we did.
Yeah, I did before we went back to the question.
Oh, you're very organized and clever.
All right, thank you.
This is Mr. Fish. Hey there, SCP fans. Hey there. First, I'd like to say that I really love the work you've done over the years. Oh God, it has been years. In relation to both writing and the podcast. Second, what do you think of IP's rendition of the, it was capitalized, rendition of the Nobodies? Well, obviously, we think it's pretty cool. Personally, I really enjoyed that they were tied into the idea of the narrative in their writings. Yeah, I really like IP's use of Nobody. IP also used Nobody as a love letter to Terry Pratchett, which is something I particularly appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like it. Not to mention because I like pretty much everything that he did for SNC Plastics, but this was taking this very, preconceived thing, like Nobody really typically fits the one mold, even though it's wide open, like I've said before, and just did it in his own complete way, and that works really well. So, yeah. All right, Rounder, read this last one.
Caleb Storm.
Okay. Caleb Storm, sick name. I would like to ask, which is your favorite idea of Nobody? Whether he's a conceptual being, or some secret agency, or just some myth made by Foundation field agents?
I always liked that last one as a funny idea, but I don't think it lends itself to the narrative very well.
Yeah.
But it is funny. Like, it is like a really good, like, I don't know, it fucked up. Nobody did it. Kilroy was
it's like that stupid fucking family circus thing about not me, the little ghost that the kids blame everything on. Who did this? Not me. It's the Foundation's version of not me.
You have never sounded older than referencing.
Yeah, I was about to say that was like I was expecting you to crumble into bones.
Okay, I'm sorry. Neither of you have ever had grandparents. I don't read the family circus.
My grandparents were so not readers. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, I had grandparents. They didn't speak English, which is an entirely lateral issue.
The only thing I ever connected with my grandfather about... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's not. I want to hear about your grandfather.
Oh, I was just to say the only thing I ever connected with my grandfather about was Westerns. And that's because that's the only form of media he liked other than sports, which I didn't like. So it was John Wayne or watch football, so I picked John Wayne.
Pretty good choice.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending the Family Circus. It's one of the worst things that's ever happened.
It is terrible. It is really terrible. Like,
Family
and it
Circus
lasted
killed the
forever.
grandparents.
Like, I remember up
did.
until I was still reading like Saturday or Sunday morning comics or whatever. Like like in the like when I was in undergrad, like all the way up until like 2005. I'm sure it still happens, but I don't pay attention to the newspaper anymore. And it would be like, oh, these are kind of fun, and you get to that one, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yes, it's like,
Who likes this?
Isn't this funny?
I barely like understood the oblique reference, and I was like, okay, I googled it. It's Family Circus, was a comic strip created by cartoonist Bill Keane, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it says, and since Bill's death is currently written, inked, and rendered by his son Jeff Keane, which is like some fucked up like generational curse that gets passed down. Like,
It is one of the worst fucking things because the Family Circus
Yeah.
is this cartoonist writing. It was originally had a bit of an edge, but eventually it turned into absolute pap for grandmothers to put on their fridge. But it was about, here's my family and here's my kids, and aren't they rambunctious and funny? And one of those kids, one of them from the comic strip, is now the one doing it because every comic is a generational spanning multimedia commercial enterprise, and they're never allowed to die.
Except for Bill Waters stuff.
Yes, and
Did you hear about him bringing
Gary
something
Larson
new?
as well. No.
Bill Waters, who did Calvin and Hobbes, eventually just decided he'd had enough and he retired, refused to sell the rights. So fucking dope. There's never been a cartoon. He's like, nope, fuck that. And then just announced he's bringing out a separate, like, it sounds almost like an Eldritch horror project.
That's cool. I thought he was dead or something because he hadn't done anything in so long.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Yeah. Most comics are horrible zombies that outlast their creator and just slouch around. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Lovely note to end on.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so thank you for joining us again, Rounder.
yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Always.
You want
A
to
good time.
give out your Twitter so that people can follow you before that platform just vanishes?
At Rounderhouse everywhere, in your face, up your nose, everywhere.
Speaking of cocaine.
Join the Simp Creates. It's also a server for a lot of things, actually.
Wait, he's trying to fucking plug the Discord.
Yeah,
All right,
Gary,
all right.
why are you crushing my flow?
Oh, fuck off.
But we do have a Discord, and the link is in the description, so please do come and join.
And I'll come up with a new episode of Goodnight Rounderpeed within the next 7 to 8 business months.
You should.
Nice.
That's how I consume Wanderer's Library stuff.
Yeah, I'll force it down your throat. But yeah, it was a good time.
It gets me to click. It gets me to click through and then vote on them. So
That is some weird fucking giant bug monster trick to regurgitate stories and spit them down people's throats.
Yeah, it's like how birds feed their kids.
Yes.
that was the image he was going for. Yep.
Now I have a Rounderpeed story idea in my head. Great.
Yeah, do it.
Post a second Wanderer's Library story.
I'm doing a story with
Rounder
Rounderpeed right now.
Are you? I am too, actually.
Yeah.
Rounder already
Oh,
knows
wow.
because he's seen my Photoshop for it.
It's just a side. He's just a side character, but he does have a very important moment in it.
I've already finished the Rounder for Heart of Mine. It's an extremely long and cool scene that's very cool and long.
Oh, you wrote a
Wow.
long thing? Crazy.
Flattered. Wow. Whoa. How? No way. We write long things. Very
Shut up.
short form enjoyer.
You also write really long things.
Yes.
No, I don't.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
I write occasionally long things, but most of my stuff I feel like is pretty digestible.
How's the Jade proposal hanging out? How's that doing?
I said occasionally. That was
No,
occasionally.
I do really love that.
It
though.
was an occasion, all right.
Yeah, I ignore the 8,000 word long tail I just shoved down Harry's throat this weekend.
There's a lot of
I take it
shoving
back.
down
Did I
throats
correct- I did
right
correct
now.
that. Yes, good.
Sorry?
A lot of regurgitating down.
I couldn't
people's
remember
throats.
whether I sent you the LBL.
No, you did. You actually, you didn't even send me it. You just like edited for me, and I was like, this works.
Man,
I
this is
did that. I love that so much better.
this
Sorry,
is
Greg.
riveting podcast material.
I know we're just
Okay,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
things
yeah.
nobody knows about. We're just
Yeah, sorry.
Half the people,
is
and I
our
don't
Big Size 7.
don't
Big Size
explain,
7. Now they
but I
know
like
about
that almost everybody is just gonna be like LBL.
yes, and we're not
Read my
going
tail series. That's what they need to know.
Well, they
Yes.
should read Jade Proposal because motherfucker.
They're
that
not gonna
thing
do
is-
that shit. I like to keep my expectations reasonable.
Well, I loved it, and yeah,
Great.
so you should fucking read it.
Thank you.
It's a completely original and non-canonical version of the Deva that I think brilliantly references everything that's best about the Deva, even though it's completely original. Well, it is, but I mean, like I told you that when I was doing the crit, which was like I started reading it, and I was like thinking this is really good, but I'm not really sure why it's Deva. And by the end, I was like, "Fuck, man, that was so brilliantly folded into all the tropes and like the references. You did such a good job with it."
Yeah, I was very proud that you thought any of that was on purpose and not just me wilding out, and it all worked out.
Well, either way,
you're just snorting that cocaine like Stephen King.
Yeah. As long as you don't write yourself into. Oh wait, you already did that. Anyway, the show's Discord link is in the description. Our Twitter is at SIMCREAT. I'm at Grigori Carpin on Twitter.
Not that I do anything about it, but I'm at Harry Blank SCP.
I'm also at Grigori Carpin on like everything. I've been doing some TikTok and some Instagram lately, so check me out there. Anyway, thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you very much. Shout out to any Canadians. Nobody. Americans won't get what that is, neither will most Canadians.
We just did a whole podcast about it.
I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah. I could make shit up about Canada you wouldn't know.
That's true. It's cold up there.
That's not true.